the Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available in Parramatta Leagues Club, Scott from Brightside Detailing and Ceramics, and Bo Cook from Loan Market, and also BTZD Clothing, and the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast. Hello listeners, welcome back to the Paracave Podcast. In this episode, this is my weekend sports wrap chat with the Duckman on Pulse FM 89.9 FM that I have with him on a Sunday night, which you can check out live on a Sunday night, 89.9 FM, Pulse FM. The weekend sports wrap with the Duckman. This is the Round 2 NRL review, in which we talk about some very interesting games, some very interesting results. Panthers and the Rabbitohs, Eels and Sharks, the Queensland Derby, Broncos and Cowboys, Roosters and Warriors, Dolphins and Raiders, Bulldogs and the Storm, Tigers and the Knights, and at the time of recording this, the Dragons and the Titans game was being played. So these are just fan opinions, no expert opinions here, just the fans' opinions. I really hope you enjoy this content, and I look forward to bringing it to you every single Wednesday, so stay tuned for that one. Also too, don't forget, the episode 131 is out, the legend interview with Chris Choppy Close as well, so that's always released on a Monday, so that was released this Monday, so if you haven't already, please check that one out and leave a review and let me know what you think of that one. But we'll go into this chat now that I had with the Duckman on Pulse FM 89.9 FM on Sunday, the Round 2 NRL review. Enjoy.
All right, there you go. Danger Zone from Kenny Loggins there. So people might be wondering, what am I playing that for? Number one, like the song. It sounds pretty good, and it's kind of gives a bit of an explanation what's going on in the NRL at the moment with some of the coaches. Troy, we've got Troy Warner on from Paracave Podcast. Troy, how you going?
I'm going sensational, Duckman. Another great round of footy in round 2 of the NRL, so happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was some good games. I'm glad Penrith got up the other night, to be honest with you, 16-10 on Thursday night. When I was listening to it coming home from footy training, they were cruising at 16-0, but the Rabbitohs have just got too many weapons to think that you're going to blow them off the park and they're not going to score.
Yeah, well, it was a crucial game for Penrith. They lost the week before at home to the Broncos, so they obviously didn't want to lose another game at Bluebet Stadium, but the Rabbitohs, they just never seemed to be in the game. It was 16-0 for a long time in the game, and then a couple of late tries to the Rabbitohs, and you thought maybe they might just get back to golden point, but Penrith really took control of the game, and I think it's the Panthers have won the last 10 out of the 11 games against the Rabbitohs, so they've got a bit of a control over the Rabbitohs at the moment. I think the last game that the Rabbitohs won against them was in 2021 in the finals game, so the Rabbitohs, the Panthers are a bit of a hoodoo team for the Rabbitohs at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're a fair way ahead from what I could hear on the radio. It sounded like Penrith just dominated them. They were rolling over the top of them, and the Rabbitohs pulled back. They've got superstars like Latrell and Cody Walker, but it's just Penrith dominated it from the start. They just laid the groundwork, and then they didn't put the points on. People thought they could have won by an extra 10 or 15 points, but yeah, that's just what it is. That's the game's like that sometimes. And the Rabbitohs are good enough to hang in there with it, but Penrith laid down a pretty decisive performance, which is good. So it's good for getting some confidence back after dropping the World Club Challenge and then losing last week to the Broncos as well.
Yeah, well, they, as you said, they lost that World Club Challenge game. They lost round one, so to get a win this week, it was probably a 4 point game for them because they got the bye next week. So, and I think Nathan Cleary and Jerome Luai have got a few little niggling injuries, but nothing that won't seem to keep them out for a while. But the week off will do them well, and for the Rabbitohs, Alex Johnston, he got another try to add to his tally, so he's ever getting closer to the number one try scoring list. But an unfortunate incident came out of that game at half time. Apparently, Latrell Mitchell was unfortunately racially abused by a 15-year-old kid, which was no good. No one ever wants to see anything like that happen. So that was the big talking point that did come out of the game.
Yeah, it's pretty crap that happened. I don't like it that it happened, and like they were talking about it yesterday on the Dead Set Legends, I was listening to on the way to rugby. They said, look, the guy's learned it from somewhere. His parents go, oh, we don't advocate that. Well, I don't know, he picked it up from somewhere. So I think people are saying that basically I think the boy should have to meet, the boy or girl, whoever it was, I'm not sure, will have to sit down, or I think they should sit down with Latrell and have to face him face to face. And just as a learning experience, just go through what happened, why they did it. So, because he can put across a very different story. So, it's got no place in sport at all, absolutely at all. And anyone that thinks any different to that, I don't know what's going on in their head. So, I don't agree with it or support it at all either. So, not even one little bit.
Yeah, no, not just sport, but everyday life as well. So, let's hope that, as you said, there's maybe a little bit of education. I think Nico Hines spoke about it on Friday before the Eels Sharks game, and said maybe a suggestion would be for them to come into Indigenous All-Stars camp and learn about the Indigenous culture and side of things like that, which may be a good idea. But as you said before, it probably is something that he has learnt or seen around him, because he's only a 15-year-old kid, he or her, I'm not too sure, but it's a 15-year-old involved, so it's obviously something that's come from around them. So let's hope they can sort that out. And as you said, there's no place for it in life or in sport at all.
Yeah, that's right, absolutely. All right, so let's get on to some more positive things. Well, maybe not positive for you, because the Eels took on the Sharks the other night at Bankwest Stadium and went down 30-26. So what did you take out of that game? I could see some things going up on Facebook, and the Parramatta fans were blowing up about different stuff that some of the players were doing. And then today, what heard that Nathan Brown is supposed to be leaving and going to the Roosters. Like, I don't know if that's an early April Fool's joke that's gone off early, or if that's actually happening, or no idea.
Well, to that point first, I think, it was confirmed from a few media agencies today that Nathan Brown has signed a 1-year deal with the Sydney Roosters. How they get another one, I'm not too sure, but obviously maybe Parramatta's chipping in as well. I'm not too sure, but so he'll be off to the Roosters. Practically, it's not really mid-year swap, it's a early start of the season swap, or transfer to another club. So there's been talk about him leaving Parramatta for a while during the off-season, and even leading up to last year's grand final. So but yeah, a few media agencies have come out, and nothing official from the clubs yet, the Sydney Roosters and Parramatta, about Nathan Brown, but the media is reporting that. So more than likely, it probably is correct. To the game, a pretty healthy crowd, 16,663 at CommBank Stadium on a Friday at 6 o'clock. It's a very hard game to get to for some teams and some fans, but 16,500 is a great crowd. Parramatta started off really well. Big RCG got the first try of the game, and Micah Sevo scored a runaway try as well. So it was looking pretty good, 10-0 to the Eels, but then the Sharks came back, and they also scored 2 quick tries in the 14th and 18th minute, and they converted their goals. Braden Trindle, he hasn't missed a goal all year. So half time it was 18-14, and you still thought it was anybody's game, because it was sort of like Parramatta would score 1 or 2 tries, and then the Sharks would score 1 or 2 tries, and the lead was going back and forth. But unfortunately, Parramatta didn't get the win. It was Mitchell Moses' 200th first grade game, and Junior Paolo's 150th Eels game. So unfortunately, they didn't get the win in the milestone games for those two. So last year's grand finalists, unfortunately, 0 from 2 at the start of the year.
Yeah, it's not not the best start for the Eels. It doesn't get easier next week either. I've seen that they've got Manly for round 3. So, but it doesn't get too much easier, because they looked really good the other day when they beat the Bulldogs. That is the Bulldogs' first proper hit out. And, Manly, I don't know, Manly just looked like a side. I think last year they didn't have as many injuries. If they didn't have the whole thing with the pride jerseys, that was a whole bunch of problems that just deflated their whole season, fell apart then, I think. So I don't think they're going to do that again. In the next game, we got Broncos up against the Cowboys, and the Broncos got the win 28-16. So did it in pretty easy form, really, and a little bit surprised that happened like that. I thought the Cowboys might have had the fuel in the tank to be able to overrun the Broncos there.
Yeah, look, these games have traditionally been really sort of close games. A few years ago, there were some one-point games between these two clubs, but the Cowboys, they won last week by 1 point, and the same with the Broncos as well. But everyone looks forward to these Queensland derbies. There's another one in a few weeks with the Broncos playing the Dolphins, but these two, I think they play for the Forex Cup, I think. But the Broncos, they carried on their form from last week, beating the Panthers, and really turned it on. Reece Walsh played his first game for the Broncos, returning back to the Broncos from the Warriors, scored a try as well. So the unfortunate part for the Broncos is Corey Oates suffered a fracture in his jaw, and looks like he will be out for 6 to 8 weeks from a tackle from Scott Drinkwater in the 43rd minute, and he was sin-binned for that. He's looking at probably 3 to 4 weeks on the sidelines, as well as a suspension. So a bit of a blow for the Cowboys there, but we wish Corey all the best in his rehab. Coming back from a broken jaw. But the Broncos, they certainly look like they're playing some really good football, and they are behind the Dolphins at the moment on the table, I think, but they seem to be the form team of the competition.
Yeah, I think they are. So Adam Reynolds, he's doing wonders for them. So if he can stay injury free and get the Broncos firing up, they'll do all right. Selwyn Cobbo, he's upsetting a few people because he comes out with some stuff. Comes out some outlandish stuff, considering he's still very inexperienced in the NRL. He's a very good player. You can't go giving it to your coach and your teammates and that sort of stuff. It's not good form, really. I wouldn't do it myself. So, and if people did that and I was coaching them, I wouldn't be real happy with that either.
No, he might probably have to have someone say a quiet word to him about that. If you can definitely back it up every week in performances, then probably won't have a problem with that. But you don't want to publicly come out and say massive things like that. But I'm sure someone will pull him aside and just say, look, just ease up on the comments for a bit and just focus on the football.
Yeah, no doubt that will happen. On Saturday, the Roosters took on the Warriors there, and they got a 20-12 win there. So the Warriors, they look pretty good this season, to be honest with you. But the Roosters, still experienced players, they've fired up. They did what they should have done against the Dolphins there, and they got the points. So no big surprises there. And I think they're just going to start humming along, heading towards the semis, even though it's only round 2.
Yeah, pretty tight game, 20-12, 8-6 at half time. So the Warriors, they really stepped up against the Roosters. As you said, they got the win against Newcastle the week before. The Roosters lost to the Dolphins. The Roosters back at home this week at Allianz Stadium. So A few injuries, I think, came out of that game for the Roosters side. I think Brandon Smith might be out for a few weeks as well with a back injury. And there was one other one that escaped me as well. So a couple of injuries there for the Roosters. Probably a good time for maybe Nathan Brown to go to the Roosters as well, seeing as though they've got a few injuries there. But look, the Roosters got the win. They'll learn from that. I think over the past few years, they've been traditionally sort of slow starters in the competition, and then they've picked it up in the middle of the year, and then obviously in the finals as well. So they're 1 from 2. So they'll make the finals. So the most important thing is that they got the 2 points, and for the Warriors, well, they stepped up and they really played well against one of the competition heavyweights. So they'll be taking some stuff out of that game and looking forward to their next challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So if they'll do well, who's the Warriors got next game? Let's have a look, eh? So let's see. They've Jags next game. The Warriors are up against North. It doesn't get easier. North Queensland. So up in North Queensland, but it'll start to get easier for them. So I would rather be playing some of these harder sides earlier in the comp to test where you're at, right? So if they haven't been blasted, so that's not a bad result. Talking about good results and bad results, the Dolphins got their second up, 20 points to 14 win over the Raiders on Saturday as well.
Yeah, this one was played at KO Stadium at Redcliffe, so their first home game at Redcliffe. They've only got a few there this year, but everyone was questioning the Dolphins last week. They got the win against the Roosters. People may have thought maybe the hype might have died down, but they backed it up and got a great win against the Raiders. The Raiders looked in control of the game really early on. They got their points in the first half, and they were in control at half-time, 12-6. So in both games, the Dolphins have come back from behind and got the victory. And the last sort of 5 minutes was a really interesting part of the game, as Sean O'Sullivan, he got sin-binned for what would most rugby league fans call a joke of a decision, to be honest. So and he was really disappointed about that. And also then had Hudson Young got sin bin as well for the Raiders game. So it was all in the balance there. And Hamiso Tabuai Fido, he scored the winning try for the Dolphins. Yep. And he's been playing really well. He scored the first try last week for the Dolphins, scored 2 this week, and he's really looking at home back at fullback. So well done to the Dolphins. They're winning the comp and 2 from 2.
Yeah, that's right. I saw Jeremy Marshall-King did like a hip drop thing on one of the players, and he's in a bit of trouble now. He's going to get suspended for a few weeks. Let's have a look at the Dolphins have got. So I'm trying to work out when they might lose their first game. They've got Newcastle next week, so they've actually a good chance to win that. They've got Brisbane the week after. I think they might be able to win that because they're playing at home again, so on the back of momentum. Yeah. So if they can win them, they've got every possibility of beating St George, even though it's a Cogra. The first game they're really going to have problems with, if not the Broncos, will be North Queensland in round 6 at North Queensland, or they've got South Sydney in round 7. So if they can dodge the Broncos there and get another win next week, they might go 5 games in a row with wins here, potentially. Would be an extraordinary start to their NRL career. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, look, it's going to be tough. Their first away game next week against the Knights, as you said. So that'll be a test, their first away game. Against the Broncos, they're crosstown rivals in round 4. That's going to be a great game at Suncorp Stadium. So both teams are playing out of there this year. So no one really has a home ground advantage there. But that might be a toss of the coin job there. They may get the Dragons as well. They're only playing their first game this year, but then they got the Cowboys up at Townsville, so that'll be a real test for them as well. And then the Rabbitohs. Yeah. So, look, they're playing some great footy at the moment. So maybe if I was a
Wouldn't put it
betting man,
past them. No.
no, I wouldn't. But if I was a betting man at this point, I'd probably say round 4 against the Broncos, as they're playing really some good footy as well.
Yeah, I think that's probably the likelihood they'll go. So you can have it would be a glamorous one if I get the round 6 undefeated, but I don't think it'll happen. Melbourne Storm hosted the Bulldogs, and the Bulldogs got their first win, which is good to see for 2023, 26-12. And saw some highlights. Craig Bellamy took the whole line up in the change room to a new level. They're calling it nuclear. So, and his head was the brightest red I've ever seen. He was angry the other day watching them lose. That didn't go down well for him.
No, certainly not. I definitely wouldn't want to be in the sheds with a Craig Bellamy blast like you saw last night. They had a few players out. Cameron Munster was obviously out with his finger injury, so that was a big loss for them. But look, the Bulldogs, they really stood up and they just blew the game away. They scored. They were 16-0 at half time, so they really took charge of the game and they were looking really well. And Josh Addo-Carr scored a try against his old club at his old home ground. And the strange thing for me was, I know rugby league fans are rugby league fans, but every time he got the ball, he got a massive boo. So I think that's just because he used to play for the Storm, but they used to love him when he played there and won comps there. But look, kudos to the Bulldogs. They're playing some really good footy, and new coach, new players. Reid Marnie kicked a 40-20, which led to one of their tries as well, and they're playing some really good footy. Get their first win of the season, and you can't underestimate the Bulldogs this season. Big Nelson.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Big Nelson, Asafa Solomona, he suffered, I think, a MCL injury as well, so he's going to be out for a few weeks as well. So another injury for the Storm.
So that's not going to be good for the Storm, because he really is their big go-to man going forward now. So they're going to have a pretty big hole in the side. They've already got Ryan Pappenhausen out. The bad thing for them, they're not losing any normal level players. They're losing the big guns. But I suppose that's going to happen when you got a side like Melbourne Storm, and you can't start at the top forever. Although they're still in good form, but I don't think they've got the same fear factor as what they used to have when they play teams now. It's a good win there for the Bulldogs. Cameron Cirero, though, he probably would have been looking at a draw or two, trying to work out when he was getting a win, and he'll be happy that he got one against Melbourne Storm, because they don't come very easy down at Melbourne to get wins.
Yeah, definitely a big scalp for Cameron to get the win in his second NRL game as head coach. So, yeah, he'll be happy that win is now out of the way, and he'll be looking to get more wins on the board for the Bulldogs and have a very competitive season.
Yeah, that's right, absolutely. And then the West Tigers just hosted Newcastle Knights, and the Knights got up 14 points to 6. Key notes there, Kayln Ponga went off early with another HIA. Someone got simmed in before halftime for the Knights as well. I heard that. So, and they were still up 10-0 at the time. So the West Tigers only scored right before halftime. But yeah, just I don't know what's going on. The game sounded pretty flat, really, like it wasn't really firing up very much.
Yeah, look, first of all, thoughts go out to Kayln Ponga as well. He went off with a concussion in the first defensive set for Newcastle of the game. So I think it's his fourth concussion in 2 years. So hopefully he may have to sit out a few weeks now because of that. So we hope he's all good. He was up on the sideline at the end of the game, so from the look of it, he was okay. But you'd have to think that maybe Kayln will have a few weeks out for that one. And also Jaden Brayley failed his HIA as well. So the Knights were down a couple of players, so it was a pretty gallant effort from the Knights to get the win. It was a bit of a fiery old game as well. We got Jackson Hastings playing for Newcastle now. He's against his old club, the Tigers. So that was a bit of feeling there. Poor old Alex Twell, he got over the line, but Tyson Frizzell knocked the ball out of his hands when he was going over the line. So he almost got his first try in the NRL. The NRL world was on 12 watch and trying to see if he could get his first try, and he nearly did, but unfortunately he'll have to wait another game. And then the other talking point out of the game is Jacob Saifidi got sent off as well for a high tackle on Jake Simpkins. So apparently Jake is okay, he's up, and Jacob he apologised to him whilst going up the tunnel. So it was a big hit. So hopefully Jake is okay.
Yeah, that's not good. So the Knights lose another player now out of Saifidi getting sent off, and there you go. He got some pretty good players, right? Adam O'Brien, I can't work out if he's a really good coach yet or not. So I know he's worked with good teams, the Roosters and stuff like that. So it's a little bit hard to tell. I don't know if putting Kayln Ponga at 5'8" is the right thing. Putting him at 5'8" in rugby union, that's a whole different story. It's a very different position. But effectively in rugby league, you've got a left and right side half back. And effectively, you've got a left and right centre and left and right winger. So not sure. I would probably play him as a fullback and give him open room to run. And in the last game of the round here, it got St George Illawarra up against the Titans, and the Titans are up 12-2 at the moment. So we both said that we thought this might happen, and the Titans are looking pretty good so far this year.
They are. They had the win last week against the Tigers. The Dragons, this is their first game of the NRL season, so they may be getting the cobwebs out, so to speak, a bit in the first competition game for them. But it's only the first half. It's a long game, rugby league, so you don't know what can happen there. But definitely the Titans are going well at the moment, and all Queensland teams are doing well at the moment.
Yeah, it's good to see. So how do you reckon? I actually think I was thinking the Gold Coast Titans really look like they were probably going to come around to be our last, to be honest with you. I actually think if they can get a bit of form and get some wins here early in the season, they might be able to put themselves in a decent position where they could end up being one of the fringe sides that either just makes the 8 or just misses the 8. But they need to get these wins now against the sides they should be beating, because when they get the good sides, they're going to be a much harder task to do that.
Yeah, for sure. You want to get as you said, the wins against the teams that you think you're expected to win against, and especially early on in the season, because if you can get those wins early on in the season, it builds team confidence, and then no matter what game you go into, you feel confident that you're going to win, even if it's against one of the top 8 sides or one of the competition heavyweights. So if they keep on winning these early season games, that'll give them massive confidence, and they'll be able to think that they can win. Obviously they won't win every game, but they'll go into the games with a really good chance of winning.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So what do you got coming up on the Paracab podcast tomorrow, Troy?
Well, I've got a really interesting chat with former Manly, Gold Coast Australian, and he's pretty synonymous with Queensland State of Origin, Queensland Maroons, and that is Chris Choppy Close. So a really interesting chat with him about, obviously, his Origin career. He played in the first ever State of Origin game for Queensland, won man of the match in that game, and also played for Australia and Manly and the Gold Coast, as I said. But a really interesting chat. We sort of reveal how he got his nickname Choppy, and we also talk about that little chop against Eric Grove Sr. in that State of Origin game. So was that how he got that nickname? You'll have to tune in and have a listen. So that'll be available tomorrow on all good podcast platforms, including Apple and Spotify.
Yeah, there you go. I look forward to that. I like Choppy Close. I think he's a good bloke. He didn't make the career move of a lifetime when he went up and played at the Gold Coast when they first started out. They weren't like Redcliffe Dolphins, unfortunately, so they threw the side together, and rugby league was still becoming very professional then, so it wasn't quite as well developed as what Wayne Bennett's got right now. Yeah, there you go. Thanks very much, Troy, for that. Really appreciate it. I look forward to hearing that podcast tomorrow, and we'll catch you again next week. I'll have to chat to you. I might be changing up the time and push it back a bit later, but we'll speak to you more about that, and I'll announce it next week how that will all look. So have a fabulous week, and I'll chat to you next week.
Not a problem. You too, Duckman. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.